Django Django is an art rock juggernaut. After meeting in art school and completing a debut home recorded album, the eccentric UK quartet released 3 inventive albums embracing rich harmonies, psychedelic finesse and dance grooves. Django Django continues to innovate with a back-to-basics approach release in 2021. You're tuned in to Roots to Grooves.
In the Yo, it's Roots to Grooves. Signl Radio, Seattle, Washington, broadcasting live. Woo! No, we're not live.
We're live.
We are not live.
6 months ago.
6 months ago, we were alive and we recorded this in person in real time.
And if you can hear clanking in the background, that's the studio radiator kicking into high gear.
Keeping us nice and toasty.
Because it's rainy. Well, it's back to the episodes where we say, welcome back to rainy Seattle.
Yeah. We're back to that weather. And it's good to be back.
Yeah.
It allows us to be nice and cozy.
Yeah.
And have a good conversation about musical artists.
Yeah.
And that is what's cranking over there, that extra sound.
Yeah, and it's messing up the compression on the microphone.
Yeah,
sorry,
getting
guys.
a lot of... Hopefully it's not too bad.
It will die down a bit. It's like it growls for a little bit, it does its thing, and then it calms down.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys, thank you for being here today. We're talking about Django Django.
Yeah.
Cool art rock band, indie rock in general. I would basically say they're just rock. It's drums, bass, guitar, vocals.
Mm-hmm.
But it is pretty progressive.
Yeah.
Little, pretty much, Beach Boys vibes.
Yeah, a little bit. Like 60s pop vibes a little bit.
Yeah, but done in a really modern way.
Yeah.
That it doesn't sound like that same stuff, but it sounds like it was derived from there, some of those ideas.
Although I did have an idea, or not an idea, a thought when I was listening to their music. It sounds like an old 45 record that you would get from some random charity shop or whatever and put on. Some of their tracks sound a little bit like surf rocky 60s pop, that it could have come from that era, or like some kind of garage band from that era or something like that. Like, that's a thought I had when I heard
that's
it.
100% correct.
Yeah.
I mean, it's completely subjective. You can experience music however you choose to, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I would completely agree with that.
Yeah.
They got 3-part harmonies going.
Yeah.
Cool vocals. It's we got 4 members.
Yeah.
David Maclean.
And I'll say where they're from. You say their names, I'll say where they're from.
Okay. David Maclean.
Drummer and producer from Fife, Scotland.
Vincent Neff.
Singer and guitarist from Derry, Northern Ireland.
Derry. Jimmy Dixon.
Bass guitar from Yorkshire, north of England.
Nice. Tommy Grace.
Synthesizer operator, also from Scotland.
Awesome. So as far as I saw, David Maclean is kind of the main producer.
Yeah.
Kind of band leader type situation.
Yeah.
But I believe they all write.
Yeah.
And they all help guide the music production.
Yeah.
So they're all involved in the songwriting and recording of their own instruments, and they're like a true band, coming up with ideas, recording it themselves, and doing really good stuff. They have 4 albums out.
Yeah.
I think I fell in love with their second album mostly, and then I went through their stuff, and basically it's all very good.
Yeah.
It's all, I don't want to say beat driven, but some of it's driven, like the song Spirals off their latest album that we opened the show on.
Yeah.
That's
the first track I've heard. I thought I heard until I heard Default, which we can talk about later.
Then you've heard Default.
When I listened to Default, I was like, I've heard this.
Okay.
Like on a commercial or somewhere, or playing in a coffee shop.
Default's a great track. We'll definitely play that one in a second.
Yeah. But the track we just opened out with, Spirals, that was like the first one I spanned today. Yeah.
And so we'll get there, but that album's great.
Yeah.
2021, I believe. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. These guys, Django Django, 4-piece quartet from Scotland / Northern Ireland
/ England.
England, sure.
But they did all meet whilst they were attending art school in Edinburgh, in Scotland.
Yeah. So beyond that, I didn't get too much about their early life or their home life as far as music exposure goes.
I found a little bit of info about 2 of the guys, David and Vincent, because they're sort of like the founding members actually of this stuff.
Yeah.
And so should we get into that a little bit? Like, are you sweating in the?
Oh no, just that heater. Killing me. No, I'm good. I'm bundled, so
You got your bomber jacket on.
I'm gonna be sweating either way.
Yeah.
Bombs away. Yeah. What were you gonna say?
Well, I have a bunch of info actually.
Oh, drop it.
So David Maclean from Fife, Scotland. He's the drummer and producer. He grew up a lot in Fife and Dundee. His first instrument was the trumpet, playing in jazz band in high school. And he said when he was 13, he got a pair of turntables, and then he started DJing. So this is all before he started playing drums. Trumpet first, turntables. He was doing a lot of hip hop beat juggling, scratching. He was spinning techno as well. He said like basically any kind of dance music. He was sort of like into DJing sort of thing. And then he did eventually get a drum kit, and the first thing he did was like a covers band in his teenage years. They were playing covers for bands such as Stone Roses. Don't know if you've heard of Stone Roses. Mm-mm. They're kind of a big pre-Brit pop band a little bit. They're kind of like, before Oasis, that sort of era of things.
Okay.
And so the first thing, when he had drums, he was like doing in this band and doing covers and stuff like that. But he got a 4-track tape recorder again.
Classic. Welcome
to the 4-track club, David Maclean. We can add you along with Tori Moir and a bunch of other artists.
We're gonna make
covered
a wall with their portraits.
The 4-track club. That should be a chapter in our Roots to Goose coffee table book that we should do.
That'll come out in about 5 years.
In about 5 years. And what he was doing with that, he said he was just like drumming loops, and that he could like DJ, I guess, or do something with, kind of thing. That's kind of how he started, just doing that. And he was like continuing to experiment with that. And when he went to art college in Edinburgh, he like took those old tapes and stuff and just continued to sort of tinker around with them whilst he was studying down there, sort of thing. Meanwhile, Vincent Neff, singer and guitarist, he grew up in Northern Ireland, and he was said he's dyslexic, and he like started playing piano. He said he tried it, but he said he couldn't read the sheet music, and he kind of lost patience with it. And he said at a certain point his mum got him guitar lessons. And so he did that for a little bit until he stopped the lessons, and then just went his own way. Basically, he like discovered that he was more interested in trying to like come up with his own things. He also said like he said he didn't really have too much patience for learning cover songs or learning other people's songs, although he did really dive into the whole Beatles back catalogue and liked to kind of like figure out some of the more obscure chords and stuff that the Beatles were doing, kind of thing. But he basically just started writing his own songs in his bedroom, kind of thing. Eventually got into some bands. He describes this era as like strange and weird, like his strange songs and weird bands and stuff.
Yeah, just figuring stuff out, trying new things, exploring.
Yeah. And he's kind of like me. I had a similar experience. Like he was in a band in school, and then he did like Battle of the Bands and stuff like that when he was, and then his bands like managed to play some shows in pubs when he was like 14 and 15. He said they basically let them play the show, and then kicked them out afterwards. And he said all the bands got paid in beer apart from them, so they didn't get paid.
Jeez.
But I used to play in like pubs in London when I was like 14.
You get paid in beer?
I know, but I did drink beer. 15 years old, drummer on stage, and I had a little pint, sneaky pint next to me. And that's a separate story about being like actually you don't get paid anything in England like as a band. Like it's kind of real shitty. I've been paid the most in my musical life in America than I have in the UK. I think like the most we might have got paid each in a band for playing shows like £6 each, maybe something like that. The least I've got here is $20, like for doing a show.
Okay. Well,
that's a side.
Why is it like that over there? Are they doing pay to play?
It's kind of it's like I think if I can recall this correctly, my band played some shows. We had to have special flyers made up for each of the bands. Like we had like a different colored paper or something like that. Like and basically after the first 20 people that buy a ticket that come in, we'd start getting a cut of the door or something. So, you know, as a rising band, we could barely get like 10 people or 5 people, let alone 20 people with our flyer paying to come in. So we didn't have to pay to play, but we didn't get paid to play. So, you know, either. So, but anyway.
Well, good for you, man.
Side
6
note.
pounds.
But unfortunately, I don't have any info on Jimmy Dixon or Tommy Grace's backgrounds. But
no, that was great stuff that you brought to the table, though.
But I do about David and Vincent because they kind of started, like David started this project.
They were the first two. They kind of got together.
Yeah, and then it morphed into them doing stuff together. Basically, David said that he could write beats, but he couldn't do songwriting. David and Vincent was a great songwriter, but he couldn't do beats. So they teamed up and, you know.
And it just kind of fell together naturally.
Yeah.
One had beats, one had song ideas and vibes and moods that they can create and mesh those two together really well. And that's just kind of how it started. And they were already in the same circles as the other two gentlemen in the band.
Yeah.
Because when Dave was doing DJ sets, regular sets, he was already living with the keyboardist, Tommy Grace.
Right.
So they were already kind of tight.
Yeah.
And in the same circles.
Yeah.
He was doing clubs in Edinburgh and Glasgow, house music.
Yeah.
Optimo, have you heard of that?
Is that a genre? Optimo?
I think it's a genre. I didn't look into it.
No, I don't know.
But yeah. But then he also like soaking up stuff like Bo Diddley or what is it, like rockabilly stuff.
Okay.
So again, they're meshing electronic stuff with rock stuff, like kind of trip hop and Beach Boys.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
just trying to paint a picture for our listeners because it's really good, energetic music.
Yeah.
It's really lush, really textured.
Yeah.
Really, written out. There's not a bunch of spots. There's not just big solos or random stuff happening. It's really kind of architecture, or engineered. I'm trying to say like engineered a certain way.
Yeah.
To present to the listener.
Yeah.
But yeah, they kind of got together in art school and they were like, oh, let's do this.
Yeah.
You guys can add to this.
Yeah.
Like we said before, they all kind of add to the music and they all have the part within the band.
Yeah.
It's not just one person writing the music and producing it and telling people what to play.
Yeah.
So they had their self-titled debut album in 2012.
Yeah. Self-titled, yeah.
And
yeah, so like it was kind of interesting how it came to be because they said that David and Vincent started making that album together, and then they put out like a couple of tracks, kind of thing, and the way David said it was like halfway through the album, I think Jimmy joined and then Tommy joined towards the end, or it could have been the other way around. Tommy halfway through and then Jimmy towards the end.
Right.
But they put out like 2 or 3 tracks, just released them. And then they said they started to get like gig offers. And they said they hadn't played this live before because they were just trying to record some ideas and stuff like that. And so they had to they were like, oh shit, we have to write at least 2 or 3 more songs so we can do at least a 25-minute set.
Yeah.
So, because they only had 3 songs and they're like, gotta play these shows and stuff like that. And so, yeah, these other guys got involved. They became the 4-piece, finished the album together. And it's a real lo-fi album. They said they were recording on this old PC. So they literally plugged the guitar into the back of the sound card on the computer and recording it in David's bedroom and did the whole thing like that, ultra lo-fi kind of thing. Yeah.
I'm trying to get the timeline down. I'm not sure if this was right before this album came out or right after, but they started playing shows, small shows in warehouses with other bands. The bill was wacky with different styles of artists.
I think it was before they completed the album.
I think that. So we could just say this leading up to it.
Yeah.
They were living in Dalston, so they'd play warehouse parties with yeah, just funny bands, cool kids. A lot of warehouse shows. They said there would be like a tropical thing with like a big plant on the stage and glass bottles for percussion. There'd be guys with wacky haircuts, wonky keyboard lines, shouting. Like then Django Django would come in and they'd be like doing their electro thing with 3-part harmonies. And so they were like, you know, where are we? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What's our space?
Yeah.
And they didn't think people knew what to make of them.
Yeah.
They felt kind of isolated, kind of weird.
Yeah.
And they felt kind of naive.
Yeah, Vincent also said like their performing chops weren't really there when they first started. At least he said for himself that he felt kind of rough around the edges. He wasn't, because he's kind of like the front man, right?
Yeah,
and
kind of the leader.
Yeah, and he said he wasn't really like expecting that when they first started. So he felt he needed to they needed to play more so he could be more comfortable with performing, and also for all intents and purposes being the front man kind of thing.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, so there's very much, I mean, they came out with this record and he started as like a bedroom producer basically.
Yeah.
And thought like maybe if they come out with this album they'll sell a couple hundred copies.
Yeah.
And they'll be kind of like a cult band, kind of an underground, release this underground album and just kind of do it for fun, do it for themselves.
Yeah.
Just to do things and have fun and explore.
Yeah.
But this album was pretty good. This self-titled album came out and like they were Mercury Prize nominated and they started doing big festivals almost right away. They were asked to play Fuji Rocks in Japan. And some other big shows.
Yeah, it was like I think the one thing they said, it didn't all happen at once. It was like a few years between the first album and the second album.
Right.
So like the first album, like they slowly produced it, eventually completed it, came out with it. They were doing these shows. They got some early reviews, like from places like The Guardian and stuff like that.
Right.
They got nominated for the Mercury Music Prize. They were on a kind of a big label. They called it a big indie. It's called Because Music. I think that helped kind of like, you know, push their music in the right places to get it heard kind of thing. And so it was like, this slow build where more and more people would hear about it, industry and audiences. And they just said they just kept getting offers from and the offers got bigger and bigger, like for bigger venues and festivals and stuff like that. And so Vinny said, he goes by Vinny, by the way. I'm not just calling
I've seen that around. Yeah.
He said that it was just like a slow organic build. There wasn't like one moment. It was just like, you know,
just a takeoff.
Yeah. And to the point where they said they found themselves like on the road for like 2-3 years. Like, it's like as soon as they thought they'd stop, they'd like get another offer. Oh, do you want to come play this festival and stuff? And like, you know.
Yeah, so a testament to what they created because it vibed with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't think it would, because it is kind of weird. They are described as an art rock band.
Yeah.
But it's not terribly progressive or avant-garde that it's challenging to listen to.
No.
That's what I really like about this band is it's pretty easy to listen to.
Yeah.
And they show you what's happening and they're like, it's right here.
Yeah.
We got the beat. Here's the music happening. Here's the vocals. Here's the harmonies. It's not weird.
No. Some of this stuff reminds me of Black Midi a little bit. We did an episode on them. Another UK group that is kind of considered art rock a little bit, but they're a little bit or math rock. They're a little bit more in that realm. I think there's only like a few tracks of Django Django that remind me of Black Midi, but overall they're a different.
Yeah, because Django Django there is a few points where they get that kind of cacophony of sound and they just get kind of heavy and wild.
Yeah,
but pretty minimal.
Yeah.
As opposed to like Black Midi, they're young and with a lot of energy.
A lot of energy,
and a lot of
complex arrangements and stuff. Like
that. Pretty. I mean, very energetic music, to say the least.
Yeah.
But I think these guys have a little bit. I don't even want to compare, but Django Django, they have good finesse and they're reserved to an extent.
Yeah.
So that they can pack a punch when they really want to.
Yeah.
I just think their whole vibe is very good, and their whole discography is very good.
Yeah.
We should play default off this self-titled album so we can all get a vibe.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah. So I heard that track a while ago. I don't know even where from, but I heard it somewhere.
I'm sure it's out there. I've never heard it outside of the context of just Django Django and their album.
Okay.
But I'm sure that track's been used. I mean, it's a bop, obviously.
Yeah.
You can hear there some electronic influence and acoustic influence. You know, they're using tambourines.
Yeah.
Vocal, like...
The funny thing is, they're not even sure where it was heard either. Because I heard Dave Maclean, the drummer, producer, he said that track sort of blew up for them. And he said, I don't know, it was on an advert somewhere. Like, he didn't even know.
I think it took them by surprise, and it took the industry by surprise about what they created and how it resonated with people.
And I think it's like their intention behind the album as well, because it came together kind of organically, although intentionally. I mean, they were intentionally making it. Mm-hmm. But it sounded very scrappy in how they, like, it was all basically recorded in his bedroom.
Yeah. And they didn't have a super solid goal of what they were striving to create.
Yeah.
At that point.
Just like, you know, David's aesthetic as approach as like a DJ. He's talked about this a lot, about how he thinks about the flow of an album and the structure and editing of it, like that sort of DJ sensibility of doing things in that way, sort of thing. Like, you know, he said like Vince would come in and record some guitar. He wouldn't see him for 2 weeks, and in the meantime, like Dave's like chopping it up and like, you know. So even in that song, we hear that sort of that stuttery vocal and stuff like that. I think that's a lot of the stuff that David likes to mess around with, kind of thing, like programming and chopping.
Yeah, I really like.
Yeah,
I really like that kind of stuff. In other artists' music as well, when you take a raw vocal and then, you know, produce something out of it, and even you know, using auto-tune to change the notes, or, you know, whatever you would call it, and to make different rhythms out of these vocal chops.
I did this actually a long time ago in the UK. There was this singer I was working with. Didn't know what we were going to write or how we were going to do anything, but she just got on the mic and started doing sort of like oohs and ahs and stuff like that. And I sort of took them and chopped them and like made like a rhythm melody out of it. And then eventually was able to like build a track out of it, which is kind of cool. Like,
I think it's dope.
It's like, it's interesting. It's a definitely an approach worth messing around with, like, to see what you can come up with. Because I think in my head I had like an idea like sort of similar to that choppy vocal a little bit. It's just like, or like Bjork, you know, like Bjork does a lot of kind of vocally sort of things that her producers like mess around with and stuff like that. Like,
I don't know Bjork too well, to be honest.
Yeah. Maybe we should do some episodes on some big artists that are kind of big, but you know, we don't really know too much about. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, no, just because they're big doesn't mean I know anything about them.
Exactly. So, and maybe your listeners don't either. So,
no, that's a good point.
But yeah, I mean, so good first. Like I just say, considering the story behind how scrappy it was that they recorded it, it sounds like legit. And
that's what's amazing. It's basically like a bedroom album scrapped together DIY with whatever equipment they had.
Yeah, there was like one other story behind that, which I thought was kind of funny. Apparently, like, they got to the end of recording it, and like Dave's girlfriend, or now ex-girlfriend, but girlfriend at the time, was coming back home from somewhere. She'd been away. And they said they had to like clean up the whole bedroom, like remove all the instruments, kind of like they weren't even there. So
why? What?
I don't know. Maybe she wouldn't appreciate the mess, or like microphone cables everywhere and drum pieces everywhere and stuff like that. But,
I mean, yeah. That is a good story though. That is interesting.
Because it's kind of like, it's just like the antithesis of like making, we're gonna make this like Mercury award-winning or nominated album,
but they're hiding their equipment and not telling people about it. Yeah, that is a kind of
shh, we didn't make the album, okay? Yeah, I don't know.
And then to see it have real success, that's amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, anyone can do it. These guys did it.
Yeah.
Just made a awesome record in their bedroom, basically.
Yeah.
And started playing Glastonbury.
Yeah, like you said,
Glastonbury or Berry?
Glastonbury. I can say Glastonbury.
Glastonbury.
Yeah.
Glastonbury.
Fuji
Rock, like I said, in Japan. So they're playing big things. They were known for an energetic live performance, and just memorable shows.
Yeah.
So interesting music, good live shows, and they started to pop off.
Yeah.
Their second album, this is the one I was probably most familiar with before doing this research, called Born Under Saturn.
Right.
Born Under Saturn, 2015.
Yeah.
So like you said, they took a few years.
Yeah.
They were touring and stuff. They were busy.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of the art and, you know, promo work, I believe, themselves. I don't have more specific info on that, but I think they said they at least help or have a hand in a lot of this. Yeah. Those peripheral aspects of the band.
Well, they all had like a background in because they all went to art school, and I think Vinny was like working as an architect at some point, and one of the other guys, what was his name?
Tommy
Grace was doing freelance graphic design as well and stuff like that. So they all have that. And I think like at a certain point before the music thing worked out, they were thinking about careers or things in design and art. I think even like David and Vinny ran an art gallery together whilst they were still studying and stuff like that.
So generally, these guys are just into art and into content creation in one way or another. Yeah. And that helped them propel to having these extra skill sets that help their music get pushed out and in front of more audiences. Yeah. So, I mean, just invaluable skills. And it's always going to help anybody to have a couple of these extra marketing skills or, you know, drawing, graphic design skills. Yeah. And I think that's kind of one of the things that helped him propel to the next level.
Yeah, definitely.
And just see that level of success.
Yeah.
So 2015, they had Born Under Saturn. And so due to that success, they were allowed to, they had some money and stuff. And I think they signed to a record label who allowed them to have some funds. And they were able to do a new album in studio.
Yeah.
With all the accoutrement.
Although it didn't work out. Did you hear about that?
Oh, no. What's the story? What do you mean?
So apparently it's funny that would you say it's your favorite album of theirs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was most familiar with this one.
So it's actually David's least favorite album of theirs.
Really?
Because he says they weren't really, it wasn't as focused. So basically the story that happened is they'd been on tour for like 2-3 years, kind of road weary, they said. And then they had this budget to go into a big music studio, residential music studio, so they could live there and record there. It's one of the guys from Jamiroquai. Have you heard of Jamiroquai?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
One of the band members from that, they built this studio. So it's like this really cool place. You can go, you can live there. It's got all the great gear and all that. They said they basically spent the whole time hanging out, drinking, playing table tennis. They didn't write anything. They didn't record anything. And they got to the end of the time they were supposed to be there and they didn't have anything. They got a bill for $100,000 or pounds, whatever it is, 100K. And then they were like, "Oh shit, we have to write an album now." So they didn't actually use the fancy studio to make this album.
Okay, I don't know. Yeah, I was unaware. I thought they did.
Yeah, as far as from what David said, that's like, maybe he was like, maybe not telling the whole truth. I don't know.
Right, but they didn't get anything done. You're saying, and then they had to go back home and create.
Yeah,
because they owed the money still.
They owed an album, and the money had already been spent. And basically, they said that they shouldn't even have been gone into the studio. So they should have taken a break after touring.
They were just burnt out
from like being on the road, and the whole time of being on the road, not writing any music, like just performing and having that experience of playing live and stuff like that, but not actually writing or recording anything for the whole, like, what was it, 4 years or something like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it was like they weren't ready, they said, to do it. But they eventually figured it out.
Well, then where did they make the music?
I think they might have made it at home, or maybe the label paid a bit more money for them to go back into the studio and do it. But
double or nothing.
Yeah. But
well, yeah, okay. So I mean, let us know if you guys have what's the deciding factor about this story, because what I was going to say is that they were allowed to use this proper studio and use the equipment there, and so in their music and their stuff, their eccentricities had a little bit of a sharper focus. And still, I think this is right, but it just depends on where we're talking about they made the music, which I'm a little confused on now. I didn't know that, but I mean, just they had these new creative tools to help them further what they were working on before. And even though this Born Under Saturn didn't live up to the critical success of the self-titled first album, it did chart better. So if that means anything to anybody, But I think the work is very good.
Yeah,
the music is it feels a little bigger than the first album.
Yeah,
and just I don't know. It just sounds a little bit more focused to me. And so I think they had the idea one way or another, whatever studio they were working in, whether it was a big studio or a home studio.
Yeah,
I think they still wanted to expand on their sound.
Yeah,
and I think they succeeded in that mindset.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that because you say it sounds more focused, but David said it sounds the least focused.
Yeah, no, that is pretty weird.
I mean, I guess it's like maybe just coming from their own perspective of like just headspace. Like they still did it; they still put out a great album, but I think maybe they just felt like they weren't in the right headspace to really do it, but they still did it, kind of thing. Like
I think that's true too. Sometimes you don't feel like you're doing something, but you did it anyway.
Yeah. Because I know like Vinny also said that because they hadn't been writing songs, he felt that he had to kind of relearn how to write songs again, kind of thing. Just because it was just like a muscle that he hadn't exercised for a while.
For sure.
It was just like, so it's interesting. Yeah, from what I heard them say, they made it sound like this whole torturous process to make this album.
We got a different story. It makes it more interesting.
Yeah.
Let's let the audience decide.
Let the audience decide.
And let's play a track.
Yeah.
I think it's the third track on that album.
Okay. We have Found You.
Yes.
Okay. Found You by Django Django from their second album, Born Under Saturn, here on Rooster Grooves.
Yes. So, I mean, I like that song. That's one of the first ones I came across from this band.
Yeah.
Even before Default from Self-Titled.
Right.
But I think it has a dope sound.
Yeah, it does.
You know, it's like just the vocals, the harmonies, the beat. It just creates a really cool space for me in my sonic perception.
Absolutely.
And the rest of the album explores these kinds of sounds too, but it's no other song sounds like that song.
Yeah.
You know, I'd even dare to say we should play another song from it, but I don't know if we need to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is a solid album.
Yeah.
They grew. You can hear it. It's bigger. It's badder.
Yeah.
It's more crystal clear.
I think there's some like surf rocky type things as well. Like the couple of tracks I picked out, which is what I got the sort of the old 45 vinyl reference from. I think it was a track called Shake and Tremble, which we could play. It has, because it's a different vibe than that last one we just played. I think it's like a little bit more, if I'm recalling this correctly.
Yeah.
At least, if it's not this track, it's one of them that's like, garage, surfy, rocky, 60s, like cool stuff. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know which. Yeah, play it if you want.
Let's see.
Let me just get a little taste test.
Yeah. Yeah, a little taste test. See what I mean, though?
Yeah, it's great. It's totally
I feel like
surfy.
Could see it spinning on a little old vintage turntable or something like that. You know?
Yeah,
and that intro is a bit like, it's kind of like they kind of stutter a little bit and then get it and then get into it eventually.
Yeah, no, it is. It does feel like it feels almost live.
Yeah.
With that kind of tremolo guitar.
Yeah.
Like they're just starting up the engine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so that the first Found You is a little bit more dark kind of vibe, and then this song almost gets into like fun territory.
Yeah.
Like it's fun, driving, upbeat.
Yeah.
And that's just on this one album, Born Under the Sun, we're talking about. So it's somewhat eclectic.
Yeah.
But it all vibes together.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know, they're just good. They create cool music that's varied, even within the same project.
Yeah.
So I'm impressed by this album.
Yeah.
That's all I got on this album. We can move on.
2017, then they came out with Marble Skies.
This is probably the album I'm least, like I was saying, familiar with.
Right.
But I think it's more good stuff.
Yeah. Me too. Yeah. This is
this.
There weren't really any stories or anecdotes. I heard about this
it was
album,
also produced by Maclean.
Yeah.
It featured a guest appearance by Metronomy. Metronomy. Anna Pryor played drums on Marble Skies.
Right.
Uncredited.
Okay.
And she's in there. And then in addition, Rebecca Taylor from, I think, Slow Club.
Okay.
Or Self Esteem, another band. She was also on this record as well somewhere.
On Surface to Air, I think. Yeah.
And I'm not singing, or is that drumming, or is that what? I didn't find that one out.
She is
Rebecca Taylor
doing lead vocals.
Okay, so there's vocals on there.
Yeah.
So cool. Right on. We got that sorted out.
Yeah. Well, that's a strange one. I mean, they're probably credited on like the physical copies.
Yeah, like the liner notes or something, but not as a feature.
Not as a lead feature call out.
She's not getting royalties.
Well, I hope they are, or maybe they're not. It's
I
just
don't know.
a session musician fee or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know how it works.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
Marble Skies, good stuff. Did you put any songs to play off with that one?
Yeah, I have. Well, the title track, Marble Skies, with Metronomy on drums. Well, not Metronomy.
Okay, let's listen to it.
But what's her name? Anna Pryor?
Anna Pryor.
Okay.
We're struggling, folks. Thanks for your patience.
Light pass through the door, down through the last and
Marble Skies, the title track from Marble Skies by Django Django, featuring Anna Pryor on drums from the band Metronomy, she said, which I have not heard of Metronomy before, so maybe we need to do an episode on them. I don't know what type of music they are.
Yeah.
But there's a lot going on that track. It's like 80s. It's like reminds me of the TV show Stranger Things or something.
Yeah, well, they're definitely using they're definitely
the
going
synths.
the synths and kind of just kind of I don't know, arpeggiated synths or I don't know what you call them, not tremolo, but like just kind of rigid synth stuff. And then I think they're getting more into the synths a little bit. I think this one was a little poppier, a little more synthy.
Yeah.
And I don't know that much about that album, but I think it's just good, and it's a little bit more of a detour from what they were doing before.
Yeah.
As far as the deep style.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit more lighthearted, and that kind of leads to the 2021 album, which is definitely more poppy.
Yeah.
And definitely more hopeful and joyous.
Mm-hmm.
Are we ready to talk about that one?
Yeah. Glowing in the Dark.
Yeah, it came out 2021.
Yeah.
And yeah, this one, it offers like a new lightness to the band, I think.
Yeah.
It was a little different.
Yeah.
I think they were, the band members are no longer living in the same house or very close together anymore.
Right.
And so that offered a new kind of style of writing. They were doing something like writing a song a day. And they said that added a new lightness to the process. And I think that shows in the music itself.
Yeah.
Just in the elements of like arranging and recording the song in a little bit of a different way.
Yeah.
And it was a little more chill and a little more fun maybe.
Yeah.
And I think it came across on the album very well.
Yeah.
Through this album, I think there's a theme of kind of escape from like constraints or from despair or from like small town life, for example, or even like escaping from dreams or from the earth, or at least moving towards something where you want to go.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, it's still the same, more electronics mixed with guitars and rich harmonies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And although it only came out in 2021, they said they actually completed this before COVID. So, like 2019, like before lockdowns and stuff like that. They said it had been sitting around for a while, kind of thing. So I think they probably had to postpone the release or decided to postpone the release because of COVID and all that sort of stuff. So,
well, good for them for waiting.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a strange time in music, and the fact that we're doing these shows during COVID and talking about artists that are releasing new stuff now and or have been recording stuff during COVID. It's an interesting time. Yeah.
Yeah, Elton John just came out with his lockdown sessions.
Did he?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, like, you know, because no one can tour, or no one could tour during 2020. So you're either mixing and mastering something you already did, or you're writing new stuff, or just taking time out. I think these guys like able to like take some time out. Actually, I think that's what they did because they had the luxury of completing the album before like quarantine really happened. And then sort of took that time to sort of just like decompress. I think like David said like most of the people he knew that he was talking to, they were like, it's the first time that they've been able to like just do nothing, like stop from all the craziness in life. Yeah. To just reflect.
Allowing yourself to take a break instead of, you know, escaping from that. Yeah. That feeling of always having to do something. I need to be productive today. I can't do nothing. Yeah. And allowing yourself to feel that I can do nothing. Yeah. And that's something that everybody should know. Like, we could just be humans and be alive. Yeah. We don't have to do anything or accomplish anything.
No. You
know, just be at peace.
Yeah. I think it was it David that was talking about this, or Jordan Mackay? I'm getting the two confused right now because the last episode was Jordan Mackay. But I think it was David that said that like about like technology and like not. Well, what was the last thing you said? Let me jog my memory a second here. I was going to say something in retort to what you just said.
How we could just be. We don't have to accomplish anything.
Yeah.
We can just chill and be at peace with ourselves and the world.
Yeah. I mean, my train of thought is lost. But there was something that David said in relation to music, and he's specifically said he thinks the idea of individual songs and the Spotify streaming culture is not going to last. Is what he said. Because he said, like, if you think about like music and classic albums of the past kind of thing, that's what people remember. Like, they remember the classic albums, right? Or the bodies of work, you know. I mean, even in recent history, you know, you think about like Radiohead and you like think about OK Computer or Kid A or what, you know, or any artist that you're into, you remember a body of work, right? I guess if you're into music, if you're just a casual listener, then maybe not. But I think that's the point he was trying to make, is that, you know, we live in an age now where all this music is coming out. And he said it's like digital chaos in the internet. There's so much stuff. What's going to be remembered in the future? You know, are we going to remember these individual songs that we're into now, or are they going to get lost in the digital chaos? You know, he said it's like, you know, it's kind of like the romantic vision of like when you, you know, you'd meet someone in a record store and you bond over some particular record you're looking at, or how couples met in a bookshop or whatever and stuff like that. It's like, he said, you know, in the future, we're not going to have people discovering these random singles.
I met my wife on Spotify.
Exactly, yeah. That's the jokes they were making. It's like, oh, we both added the same song to our Spotify playlist.
Yeah.
I mean, he has a point there. It's like, he specifically said he doesn't think it's going to last. He said it's going to come to an end. He like definitively believes that. I don't know.
That's cool. It just begs the question, then how's it going to be implemented?
Yeah, what happens? That's the thing.
We're just going to be like, Spotify, go away.
Yeah.
You're awesome and everyone loves you, but go away. And
I mean,
just going to release vinyl now.
I don't think he was really referring necessarily to like platforms like Spotify coming to an end. But I think he's talking more about the culture or like the listening habits behind the music sort of things. Like, yeah, what, like, you know, 10 years from now, are we going to remember these individual songs that came out on these platforms? Or you know, what is the legacy of the music being put out now? How is that going to be remembered? It's an interesting thing to think about, because if you think about all of the previous decades up till now, right? You know, if we look back to music, we look back to any artist like Michael Jackson or anyone, we think about specific songs, right? Or specific albums. Like, how is that going to be remembered? Like, in the future.
Well,
like,
I mean, one thing that David Maclean said was that one thing to know that is that people have more power together than the divisive power has against us. Like, I'm paraphrasing, maybe that doesn't even make sense, but basically people are strong together, and that's more powerful than any of the stuff that's trying to divide us up.
Right.
As long as we can band together and be aware of that and utilize that as humans.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I mean, I was about to lose my train of thought too. People are strong together more than things that are trying to divide us up are less powerful.
Right.
People are more powerful staying strong together. And kind of what we're talking about, how everything's being divided up in the internet. Streaming singles, you know, not bodies of work. It's kind of the same thing. Like, something's very powerful when it's together, like 10 songs, an hour long, a body of work.
Yeah.
And we still see that as, you know, music lovers all around.
Yeah.
That's a powerful thing.
Well, maybe that's the thing. Like, if you think about with artists, right? It's like, I think David did say this, like I just said about the whole individual song culture, how will things be remembered? But he also did say, when he said that that's why he, with Django Django, are focusing on bodies of work, like the albums, and making those great, sort of thing. And I think all of the artists we talk about are doing that.
Yeah, right.
They're all doing albums, like still.
On the greater scope of the music industry, I think there is a lot of singles happening and things breaking down for marketing purposes.
EPs and
for
short chunks of things.
Yeah, just for the sake of artists being able to get something done, like, and still remain in the internet sphere of, you know, of being in front of an audience and be like, short attention spans. You know, you have to release, well, let's just release a single right now to get us to the next year, or an EP right now before we, instead of just having no content for years at a time and have everybody forget about us.
I think that's the thing, right? Is because traditionally you could spend a year working on an album and then spend like 2-3 years touring it and then be off the scene for another year whilst you're working on the next album and then repeat that cycle kind of thing. I think that works for big artists and it works for legacy artists. I think the issue is for new artists. It's like, how do you, it's not really, if you're rising up, it's not really possible to do that schedule, right? Of doing that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Because just coming onto the scene with an album, and unless you have significant marketing behind it to get it in front of a lot of people, you're not going to be able to make the jump to playing big festivals and doing big tours around your country, let alone the world. Yeah. And then after even that, you can't just come out with an album with no marketing and then just go 3 years without coming up with your next album and expect it to blow up. Yeah. And for people to be following you, following what?
Yes, thing.
Nothing.
I think that's why they like focus on content, and that's like the issue, right? Is that as a new rising artist, you have to be putting out content all the time, and I think a lot of times people say that as in like your social media content and your online content, not necessarily your music, but it should actually be your music. But then that's the problem lies in that. It's like, okay, if I'm going to release a song every week, every 2 weeks, or every month, how does that count? Like, because I think as an artist, the content you should be creating is the music, not TikTok videos, right?
Yeah. Like, you know, people are spending more on their TikTok videos.
Where's the balance? Do I make 3 songs over the next 6 months and 100 TikToks, or do I make 100 songs and release them?
Yeah, that's,
you know, it's like, it's crazy. I'm sorry, I got really sidetracked and all that.
No, I mean that's the conversation that's happening.
Yeah, in
constantly.
music right now.
Yeah. So that's right, our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to further explore the conversation.
Yeah.
Let us know what you guys think, because it's very interesting and it's happening right now, and we're all in control of it. Yeah. And I think maybe a lot of people are looking for a new way of experiencing music.
And I bring this up as well because Dave Maclean from Django Django kind of brought it up in that comment about saying that, you know, the legacy of music, how will music from now be remembered, which is driving his inspiration in Django Django to make these albums, these bodies of work, and make them flow, make them
powerful. Yeah, together.
Yeah.
And again, like also like Maclean said, can we call him Dave? Are we in first? We had a whole episode about him. Dave.
Yeah, Dave.
DM. People are strong together. Yeah. You know? Apes strong together. Yeah. And so like making bodies of people is powerful. Bodies of music is powerful. Yeah. Maybe we need to go back to that. Yeah. This album's good. Yeah. Oh, I had one more note. Yeah. Glowing in the Dark features. There's a guest spot.
Charlotte Gainsbourg.
1 or 2. Well, but Charlotte's definitely on vocals on it.
Yeah.
And then I think Sid Arthur and violinist Raven Bush. Cool. Which I don't know those names, but
I know.
You know, they're working with cool people. Yeah. It's basically the gist of what I'm saying.
It's cool that they're sort of collaborating with people. It seems like on a musical sense, not like a feature, this song features this person sort of thing, but they're like in the background in the studio working with these different drummers and violinists and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they're opening
like creative doors.
Creative doors,
but not pigeonholing their band or or I mean, feature is a big thing because you're like, oh, we're featuring somebody else.
Yeah, I'll just say that I think like the guys from Django Django, they don't seem like pretentious is not the right word. They don't seem like really that they're like, we're a rock band and we're touring and really releasing albums. They don't really approach it that way. They seem to be just doing stuff and then surprised at the reaction. Still like, to this day.
They're their own audience. Like they're just exploring, and that's how they make cool music.
Yeah.
And then they're able to look back at it and be like, whoa.
Yeah. And they're just like down to earth and just doing their thing.
Yeah.
And not like kicking up a fuss. And I haven't seen any of their music videos, but I've heard they've like collaborated with some like sort of other artists to create those visuals and stuff like that. And so, I haven't explored their visual world because that's something, actually I should probably include into my research a little bit more going forward on Roots to Grooves is see what some of these artists are doing visually and like who they're collaborating with on that end kind of thing. Because sometimes they're not involved in it and the label just does whatever. And then other times, I think like with Django Django, because they come from this art background,
they at least they care about what
they care about it.
Whoever makes it, they at least want to say who's making it or what it's about and have a small hand in that at least.
Yeah.
Because these guys are artists.
Yeah.
And they're an art rock band, and they care about the whole shebang, from visuals to the audio to the production, to who they're working with and how they're sending out their message.
Yeah.
So all their stuff feels very fleshed out.
Yeah.
And they're an impressive band.
Yeah.
They've stuck together. They continue to make good music. It's interesting music. They're doing cool stuff. Highly recommend.
Be another good live band to see, right? That's a live experience.
I haven't seen live. I didn't watch anything live, but they're known, from what I was reading, they're known for having good, energetic live concerts.
Yeah.
And if you like the music, then it's certainly going to be great.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's all I got on Django Django.
Shall we play out with the title track, Glowing in the Dark?
Yes. Yeah. Glowing in the Dark, because I think that track is the title track, like you said, and it's kind of the culmination of the album kind of climaxes right there. It's like third of the way through, at least.
Yeah.
Through the album.
11th track out of 13.
Yeah. So almost up there, and then it kind of settles down and sets you back down after that climax.
Nice.
But it's a good track all the way around.
Yeah.
We had a bunch of disparaging ideas on this episode, I feel like. So if you guys can point us in the right direction, let us know. We got an email.
Roots to Grooves at Signl Radio, Signl radio.com. Hit us up there. Hit us up on YouTube as a comment or whatever.
Yeah, thank you guys. We're here for you. We appreciate you. Thank you for the feedback.
Yeah.
We're out.
Glowing in the Dark. Django Django.
Can't see in front of me, drawing my memory up. My senses take a leave, I need a space to breathe up. It starts to emanate, the space between illuminates. Give me a remedy and a guide, and now we see the speed of light is leaving us behind. Now we're glowing in the dark, the dark, the dark, the dark, the dark, 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 dark. Now we're glowing in the dark, the dark, the dark, the dark, the dark, 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 dark. Now we're glowing in the dark, the dark, the dark, the dark, the dark, 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 dark. Now we're glowing in the dark, the dark, the dark, the dark, the dark, 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 dark. I'll lay awake at night, it's gonna melt my mind up. Your eyes will radiate, they're gonna lead the way up. It starts to emanate, the space between illuminates. Give me a remedy and a guide, and now we see the speed of light is leaving us behind. Now we're glowing in the dark, 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 dark. Now we're glowing in the Now we're glowing in the dark, 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 dark. Now we're glowing in the. Now we're glowing in the dark, 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 dark. Now we're glowing in the dark, 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 in the dark, in the dark, 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 dark. Now we're glowing in the dark, 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 dark. Now we're glowing in the dark, 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 in the dark, in the dark, 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 dark. Now we're glowing in the dark, 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 dark. Now we're glowing in the dark, 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 in the dark, in the dark, 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 dark. Now we're glowing in the dark, 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 dark. Now we're glowing in the dark, 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 in the dark, in the dark, 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 dark.
Roots to Grooves is a production of Signl Radio. For more music and independent culture, visit signalradio.com. That's signl radio.com.